Hello, and welcome to Rusty Deals here at Minnesota is Rust. As always, we try to figure out, is this fine automotive specimen something you would like to rust away in your backyard or someone else's backyard? In front of us today, 1988 Ford F-150. Looking at the first picture here, Minnesota has done what Minnesota can do. Half ton, four-wheel drive. I don't see, hard to see the front hubs if they're automatic or lockout. I grew up with Chevy pickups of this era, not Ford. But right away, just looking at it, you can tell there is something going on with the back as opposed to the front. Looking at the specs here, the rundown here says odometer's got about 35,000. For sure, it's at least 135, maybe 235. Primary damage rear end. Estimated value $7,464. Interesting, on Copart auctions, you will see how they list a vehicle as, like, what conditions it's in. This one is listed as an R, which stands for run and drive, which means it's started. Typically they'll use a jump box or something like that. It'll go into gear and it'll move forward. So this one started, went into gear, and moved forward. I have known people that won't touch a car sitting in a junkyard, but something coming through an auto auction like this, they know it was hurt or it was damaged when it was going down the road, most likely. Unless there was a vehicle that had storage and a tree fell on it or something like that. So you knew it probably did run and drive until whatever happened to get into this situation. Gas-powered, four-wheel drive. Oh, manual transmission with a 4.9 longitudinal 6. So here is our 300 straight 6 Ford that will get the job done. Initial thoughts looking at it is it's rough. Yeah, you see stuff on the ground. Weather stripping hanging out. Something fell on the ground. Somebody opened the door, I suppose. Something fell out. But let's dig in here a little bit. Now we get a clearer picture of the rear. This makes me less nervous that the frame is tweaked, because it looks like they either backed into something or somebody hit them from behind, something that was low, and popped the box up high. You can see the box is in the back of the cab. You can see the driver's door doesn't quite shut the way it should anymore. You can see, well, I think the next picture will tell us if the rear axle looks lined up or not, depending on how far in the hit went. The bar laying on the ground behind the rear looks like maybe that's the rear spare tire holder. Maybe that's a brace that goes in the trunk to hold your groceries, or the box to hold your groceries from flying too far up to the front. I don't know. But yeah, the box is tore up pretty good. Rear bumper looks like it's shredded. Dual tanks, which is great, because then you have 2 fuel pumps and twice as many fuel tanks to rust out here in Minnesota. 2 fuel pumps to go bad and whatnot. Any vehicle in our family with 2 tanks, typically like on the 80s Chev, the switcher valve would go bad, and it would always get stuck on the one that didn't have fuel, or the one that leaked because it was rusty or whatever. So we would convert the smaller tanks. I think they were either 15 or 16. We convert the 1 to 20 and then just have 20, and that was much easier. Weren't doing a lot of cross-country road trips with the old 85 or 86 Chevys, so there you go. But yeah, it looks rough from that angle for sure. Well, you can see the rust on the passenger side is looks more significant than the rust on the driver's side. Typically, with the older rigs out here, the rust is worse on the driver's side. That's where you get more spray from oncoming traffic down the salty, slushy, snowy roads, at least in our experience. But this one is passenger, so maybe the paint didn't get put on quite as thick on that side. I don't know. Bumper, and like I said, the box. I wonder where the tailgate went, if it had one. A lot of junk in the box, a lot of dirt and whatever. Then again, you won't find many older pickups like this around here that isn't hauling, you name it, in the back of the truck. I'm about as guilty as that, but I try to keep it swept out when you never know what a moment's notice might need to pick up a refrigerator for somebody or something like that. But yeah, the back here looks pretty tore up too. This side of the truck here is the front passenger quarter view. Everything on the front looks untouched, so that should be good. I'm sure everything is rusty crusty underneath what we see, but it's there. I don't see the box pushed into the cab on this side. Like in the previous picture, hard to tell, but here you can see it look pretty good. But you can just see how high that box is in the back. So whatever rear ended them or whatever they backed into went right underneath in the back. And there's the ice maker. Our ice maker making noise in the back. I don't know if you can hear that, but you might cut that out too. So whatever hit them in the back definitely went underneath. And depending on how far they went, it maybe hit the rear end, maybe they didn't, but that is hard to tell from here. Again, I said the estimated value about 74, 64 on here. You could actually buy this right now. There are some vehicles in that classification for $950. So there's kind of there's the rub, if you will. You need to decide if you can't live without this vehicle. You could go there right now, and depending on if some vehicles you have to be a dealer, a registered dealer to buy from some of these auto auctions. Some you just need to sign up with the company, show your ID, etc., and then you're able to do that too. This $950. Would I spend $950 for this right now? Probably not. But if you couldn't live without it, you could. Let's keep trucking. You know, it takes a lot to rust a chrome bumper. Some bumpers are more chrome than others. Some are just chrome paint, so there you go. But you can see the front bumper here is rusted all the way through on both sides. Some vehicles we've seen had excessive bumper bolts, in my opinion. Here you can see you got the two on one side, two on the other. Maybe some more hidden here and there that we can't see the bumper bolt heads, but there you go. But, you know, these Ford square bodies have a nice look, I think, nice and square. You can see the 4x4 emblem that was underneath the driver's headlight has been freed. It is not there anymore, but the outline is there. It sits pretty level. I can see the bumper sags a bit on the passenger side. Whether that's because of a hit or because of how it is, not really sure. Ooh, here is yeah. So evidently the hit was on the driver's side a little bit more than the passenger side. You can see the whole bed has been tweaked. Hard to tell if the wheels or the rear end is pushed to one side or not. Yeah, your bumper's gone, your bed's gone. At least though you get a chance to see if you pulled that off to see if the frame is square or not. A bed's not super expensive around here in Minnesota. You can get rust-free beds for maybe between $500 and $750. Typically, they're shipped up here from our local salvage yards. We know some junkyards in the area that will bring engines and transmissions down to the southern part of the country, and on their way back, they will come back with cabs and beds and front clips from some of these older rigs for us rust belt warriors to pick up and add to our rusty vehicles. So this definitely needs a box for sure. You can see here is a pretty basic split bench seat. able to fold behind and see whatever you got hiding back there. You got your power steering fluid and your brake fluid for all of your leaky, rusty lines. That's where I keep mine. There's your 3 pedals, so we got that. I can see a big shifter there for your. This would be a 5-speed, I would have to assume, and then I see a floor shifter there for your transfer case for your 4-wheel drive. Again, we got keys, so that is a good thing to see there. My kind of vehicle, I got manual door locks, I got manual windows, no motors to brake to go bad inside the door cards, have to or take the door cards out to get to, so that's perfect. I see cruise control buttons on the steering wheel, so that's nice too. I know our in-laws, my in-laws had, it was either a 90-ish 3/4 Ford I drove a couple times back in the day. Of course, it had a 7.3 diesel in it and automatic. So this interior is very familiar, and I know their transmissions were very flary on that. So they had it rebuilt by a company that specialized in ambulance transmissions, and it drove very differently after it had a rebuilt tranny. It shifted nice. You could feel the torque converter lock up, and boy, that was noisy at drive-throughs, but it sure made good power and drove nice. Wouldn't mind something like that back in the fleet. You got your basic gauges. What else do you need? Even got a tack. Oh, this is a fancy one if you get a tack. I can see the there is your 5-digit odometer, so you don't really know how many miles it has. That's on the listing. It'll say exempt. Anything older that doesn't have the 6 for 100,000 miles, it'll always say exempt. There is inside your box, and the way you kind of see rust sitting in there, I almost wonder if there was a bed liner here. If I look on top of the wheel well on the driver's side, it almost looks like holes across the top. But then again, you see how scraped up the metal is and how dented up the wheel wells are. There probably wasn't a liner in here, how scraped up it is. But plenty of junk there. Maybe this was a wood hauler, a scrap hauler, but only being a half ton, maybe not, hard to tell. But definitely it's bent out of shape for sure. There is your under the hood shot right there. These 6s, fuel injected 6s, have the long snorkels that run to your airbox over on the driver's side. I don't see a ton of new parts here. Alternator doesn't look replaced. Master cylinder looks pretty nice, but those are high up and out of the salt, so you're good. You can see the vacuum canister on the left behind the battery. You can see how rusty they get. I see appears to be primer up on the hood, just to the right of the picture there. Not sure why there would be primer on the hood, but somebody saw some rust and wanted to repair that, maybe. Overall, it looks to be pretty original. Nothing too. I don't see a lot of damage under the hood here, which it was hit from the back, so that makes sense. But they said it ran, so there you go. Looking back here, that chunk of metal above that twisted tailgate almost looks like a running board. Thinking back to that very first picture, it almost looks like a running board bracket that was hanging down, so maybe that is a running board and not spare tire holder, but it's hard to tell from some of these pictures. But yeah, your tailgate is pretty bent, pretty twisted, but you can see your FORD. So in case you forget what you're driving when you're walking up from behind, it tells you what you're driving. Bottom of the tailgate, all rusted out. You can see it's just sandwiching, coming apart right there. So not much left there to save. I would say back over it with the tractor, straighten it back out, and you could put it on the wall of the garage for a memory. Most likely nobody really got hurt in this, at least in this rig, so who knows. And then there's your VIN right there. Kind of, sort of can read the numbers there, but we know this is an 88. So we could go through and break down the VIN by code, but we already got what we need. 5-speed manual, manual transfer case, straight 6. So, with that being said, you need to decide, is this something that you would want to rust away in your backyard here on Rusty Deals, Minnesota's Rust? Here, I think this is probably too far gone. If you need a good straight 6 manual 5-speed with a clutch assembly, if you want to swap over your rig to a manual from an automatic, maybe it's worth the parts. I don't know how much clutch assemblies and I assume this has a hydraulic clutch, how much all those parts cost to get from a junkyard. But here you'd have a whole running, driving vehicle to pull parts from for $950. With that being said, thank you much. This has been Minnesota's Rusty Deals. We'll see you again. Thank you.